A very good day to all of you. I am Vidyashankar Hoskere from Bangalore. I'll be talking today about services in the construction industry, challenges and opportunities. Now, of course, the construction industry is split into construction and construction services, consulting. Construction itself is termed as a service. Of course, it is a composite service, therefore it comes under what we call works contract. And the consulting comes under actually any other, similar to consulting industry in all other fields. Now, primarily I'll be focusing on construction aspect of both consulting as well as construction works contract. So, I am from Bangalore. I did my BE from the BMS College of Engineering, my master's from University of Colorado Boulder. I have a professional engineer registration from the state of California. I worked for 6 years in different places in the Los Angeles area, and right now I'm the managing partner of Turnkey Construction Engineers in Bangalore. Of course, we have done some award-winning projects. One is the final design of the world's hybrid isolation system for the Fulton County Medical Center in the Los Angeles area. And then the Simplex Award for Outstanding Non-Industrial Structure for the acoustic suppression system for the second launch pad in Sriharikota. I'm also a bit of a philosopher, the author of 2 books. And now we will get into the topic. Now, if you look at the big picture, you look at the size of the construction industry. If you compare it, of course, with the US or with Western Europe, it is smaller. But when you compare it with a country like Indonesia, then it is twice the size. Of course, the population of Indonesia is only 1/4 of the population of India. And therefore, still, compared to Indonesia, we can catch up a little bit. Now, when you compare different countries and what the different areas of specialization within the construction industry contribute to the construction turnover, you look at India, you see that professionals, you see the blue in the first bar. It is a very small blue strip. And then you see sales and clerical, it's a very small strip. We do very little marketing, and our professionals directly are involved in getting a fee which is not at all comparable to that which people in USA and China, for example, get. It is more comparable to Indonesia, Brazil, and the emerging economies. Now, support activities, we spend a lot of money on support activities, and then we have skilled traders which contribute to a major portion of it. So we have the largest number of employees in the world which are employed anywhere in the construction industry. Of course, compared to our population, it's not all that much. If you look at India, we are employing roughly about 60 million people from all kinds of aspects of industry. And if you look at the projected growth of the economy up to 2029, India is just about to touch about $5 trillion by 2029 or 2030. Of course, the big target of trying to touch $5 trillion by 2025, which the Prime Minister has announced, is very difficult to achieve. And this is probably a little bit more realistic. Now, if you look at the ease of doing business, where India stands, we are much improved from, let's say, about 4 or 5 years ago. The getting credit and protecting minority investors and resolving insolvency. We have improved on all these scores. But the challenging part is still starting a business and registering property and enforcing contracts. It's very difficult to enforce contracts, and very often contracts are incomplete, and they end up with some kind of arbitration. Now, of course, the COVID has had an incredible impact on the economy, not just in India, all over the world. And different industries have been impacted to different levels. The construction industry, you see, has been impacted and is down like minus 13%. So it's a major impact on the construction industry. If you look at the quarter of this financial year, which is April to June 2020, the construction industry took a big hit. The migrant worker crisis is known to everybody. And in addition to COVID, there are other impacts that have impacted the construction industry over the last 5 years. Now, one is the transition from VAT to GST. Now, one thing is transitioning from one type of tax system to another. Another thing is to embed a tax hike in it. So what happened when we moved from VAT to GST, the works contract tax that we were paying, the construction industry was paying, was roughly around 12%. And when we transitioned to GST, suddenly it increased to 18%. Now this 18% GST is a very high rate, and this has enormous slowing down implications for the construction industry. And ever since the VAT was implemented, the industry has been struggling to come to terms with it, and the industry growth has slowed down considerably. If you look at the last 6 years from 2014 to 2020-21, you see the GDP was growing at 8.6%, and when demonetization was announced, then it dropped, and then it was kind of started to recover, and then the GST was announced, but still the recovery momentum was so high that it carried on even with GST for a couple of years. Then the impact of the GST in 18 and 19, the high GST has come, and then there's a steady fall quarter by quarter by quarter by quarter, even without COVID. This is before the COVID era. So it has been a steady decline because of the high GST rates. GST is in fact a consumption tax. So when you put a high consumption tax, consumption comes down. That's all. It's just a common sense thing. And when consumption comes down, then the whole cycle of employment, the whole cycle of purchasing power, the whole cycle of productivity, everything is affected. And of course in 2021 we had this sudden drop due to COVID. Now we are recovering from this point up. Now if you look at the impact of GST from 2018, I said the impact has started showing. And then you see that the industrial production graphs are down from 4.5%, it has come to negative 1%. From capital goods expenditure, from 10%, it has come to minus 21%. Consumer durables has come from 3.9% to minus 9.1%. So this is before COVID. This has nothing to do with COVID, this drop. It purely has to do with high tax regime. So when you tax consumption, then the consumption starts going down. Capital goods is consumption. Consumer durables is consumption. And industrial production is related to consumption. So all these consumption related activities start going down. Now, if you look at employment or unemployment, then you see obviously that from 2000 up till 2008 or 9, the unemployment was around 18% for the youth. And then it has started going up and ever since in 2018 we started seeing the impact of GST here. It started going upwards in a much higher trajectory. So today it is a very high unemployment, probably in excess of 30% in the youth. So this high tax rate results, of course, in a very steady tax collection for the center. But in terms of impact on the economy, in terms of the number of people being employed, it has a very severe impact. And these could have lasting social impact in the long run when unemployed youth turn to negative activity as unemployment continues to bog them down. So I have just made here a comparison between the VAT regime and the GST regime. The VAT regime was roughly 10 to 12%. So when it was 10%, I think it was just about right. When they increased to 12, it was difficult for people to absorb. So then what happens when you tax the revenue a little bit higher, then it has a negative impact on all the other things. For example, when you're taxing 10%, there is very little negative impact. Let's say based on the fact that you're spending the pre-tax amount is 100%, you tax 10%, the purchasing power is matched at about 110%. Now, if you look at the breakup of the works contract, you can see that goods we spend about 35%, on services we spend about 30%, on capital expenses we spend about 10%, operational expenditures we spend about 15%, and a very healthy profit about 10% can be had. So in which case the effective rate will be 10%. If you have an effective rate of 10%, it means that we are charging on goods and services. That is only these three. GST is applicable on only these three columns. It is not applicable on operational expenditure. Profit is already taxed with income tax, and therefore it is not applicable on any of this. But when we are extrapolating and applying on the entire revenue, it has to be moderated a bit. So therefore, if you put 10%, you are actually collecting 13.33% on goods, services and capital expenditure. Now what happens when you increase the 10% to 12%? Now the negative cycle starts kicking in. You cannot have 10% profit anymore. You reduce it to 9%. And then the capital expenditure, you reduce it from 10% to 8% because you have to absorb the cost. And when you are absorbing the cost, the capital expenditure is less and your profit is less. It shows in salary increases and all the other expenditures that you do, that is non-capital expenditure, and therefore there is a decrease in purchasing power also. So as you increase the tax, there is a decrease in purchasing power, and the person who can pay is actually paying only 106.5 of your cost, and you are paying 13.5% GST you are collecting from the person. Therefore you are getting only 93% of your cost. Right now we are in this regime where the purchasing power, because of this high tax regime over 2 years from 2017 to 2019, has been reduced by 8% to about 102%. And then when you reduce it, you are actually getting only 84% of your cost after levying 18% GST. So when you get only 84% of your cost, you make much less profit. You make only 7% profit instead of 10%. And then operational expenditure, you try to reduce from 15% to 10%. That means you are hiring less people and you are not giving hikes to the upper management and stuff like that. And capital expenditure has been reduced from 10% to 2%. This is what was reflected in the previous slide, that we saw that capital goods expenditure, you see, has been reduced here. And consumer durables, therefore, as a result of salary cuts and cuts in salary hikes, has reduced. And since the people are not purchasing consumer durables or capital goods, industrial production is down. So this is the vicious cycle of a high tax regime. And therefore, what I suggest is that if we have a we should have a tax regime of something like 10%, or the worst case at 12%. In fact, for government projects, the GST rate is 12%. And actually, it will not stand in the court of law to have a separate GST rate for works contract for government projects and then a separate rate for private projects. In fact, it is very surprising to me that big companies like L&T and other companies and forums of like Builders Association of India have not questioned this in the court of law. If they do question, and this GST rate can be brought to around 12%, that will give a huge fillip to the construction industry. Now, if you look at the opportunities, then we see actually when compared to other emerging economies, the Indian construction industry is very competitive. If you look at, let us leave the top 10 countries which are developed countries, and then we come down to Korea, Sweden, Italy, Denmark, Portugal, Turkey. India is right up there with 65%. So our construction industry is quite competitive because we know how to use technology, we know how to use leverage software, we know how to use tech enhancements, and we also have a lower labor cost. Therefore, we can be quite competitive globally. Now, the one advantage is, even with all this high tax regime, we still have the projected increase is gradual, but it is nevertheless going to increase. The output, the construction industry volume is going to increase incrementally over the years. Therefore, the opportunity is there for us to expand our activities from 2020 onwards when we look at the post-COVID era. Now, there is also, in addition, there is a rising anti-China sentiment in the developed world. If you look at Japan, it is negative 71%. If you look at Sweden, it's negative 45%. So all the developed countries, you look at Japan, Sweden, Canada, United States, France, Germany, Netherlands, Australia, Italy, UK, Spain, Philippines, they all have negative sentiment towards China. So this is a huge opportunity for India. Now, if we do not grab this opportunity at this point in time, when we have given a restart opportunity by COVID, then we are really missing one of the greatest opportunities of the 21st century. Now is the time to unleash India's potential in construction. Now is the time to unleash India's potential to become the leading economy in the world. Now is the time to unleash India's potential as a consultancy powerhouse. Another advantage we have is that we have the highest COVID recovery rate in the world. If you look at the world, India has the highest COVID recovery rate. COVID has not impacted us as much as it has impacted the developed world. The resistance to COVID in the developed world is far less. Our people are far more resistant to this virus, and they have recovered extremely well. And in many parts of South India, it is coming drastically down week by week. And then I think perhaps by next month or by January, we will have the vaccine also. So the COVID can be very quickly behind us. And this is a tremendous opportunity because every other economy has slowed down and come almost to a standstill. This is the time when we have to pass other emerging economies. We have to take a leaf from what Bangladesh has done. We have to take a leaf from what Malaysia has done. And we have to unleash the entrepreneurial spirit of India. Additionally, we have crude oil at a historic low. If you look at 2010 and 11, crude oil was trading at around $100, $110 a barrel. And today is down to like $40, $45 a barrel, which is less than 40% of what it used to be in the last decade. And it's a huge advantage. Now, instead of unleashing a tremendous growth opportunity, if we tax the fuel and we keep an artificial level of inflation at this point, consumption will go further down, and then we can never get out of the bottom. We'll be growing at such a gradual level that it is impossible for us to catch up with the amount of unemployment that is growing in India. So we have a huge amount of positives and opportunities. We have a favorable exchange rate for exports. The dollar is almost 73, 74 rupees per dollar. So if you are consulting abroad, then you have an exchange rate advantage. And there is a rising anti-China sentiment in the developed world. Crude oil prices are historically low and vast youthful demographic. We have our population today is close to 140 crores. And out of that, a huge percentage, maybe almost 50 or 60 crore are youth. And they are hungry for employment. Out of that, just imagine we have 30% unemployed, which means about 20 crore youth looking for jobs today. So, and these people, our people survive. Our people survive in the worst of environments. We have survived through the greatest, most difficult times during the partition. Then we have survived through the emergency. And now we are surviving through COVID, and we are coming out on top. I had been to the US a couple of years ago to attend a World Economic Conference in Chicago. And there I met a lot of Indians who have made it in the construction industry as well as in other industries in the US. And when I talk to these people all are having $1 million homes and they're driving big SUVs. And these people come and pick me up at the airport, and when I'm driving from the airport, I ask them, what is it? What is it that you're doing? I mean, they're doing so well. And then the person says, I'm having 10 outlets of Subway. Subway is this food sandwich chain. So, and then he is planning on expanding further. And I go to his house, he's having a computer and he's having software, and he's monitoring all the 10 outlets from his living room. He's not even going anywhere. And he's making a considerable amount of money just by his entrepreneurship, just by his drive to work and exploit a situation, just by the American economy, just by having a proper framework for people to operate. These people are doing extremely well. If you talk to this person, his English is not grammatically 100% right. And he is surviving in a country which speaks English and no other language. And if he wants some help, he'll hire a consultant. If he wants something, he'll ask somebody. And our people are so creative that they're able to take advantage of any kind of situation in any part of the world. You go to Fiji, you go to South Africa, you go to England, you go to France, you go to Australia, you go to any country, any corner of the world, Indians are doing well. Indians are doing all kinds of businesses. And they're doing very well in wherever they are, because in any country, if you give our people an opportunity, a framework, a predictability, that is enough for them. We don't need any special gift from the government. We don't need any special stimulus. India is the only country which will never get a stimulus, and we do not want it also. Now, the advantage we have is that we have relatively low labor costs, even for technical personnel. And we have tremendous internet availability. In any corner of India, you go to any small village in India, you will get internet, you will get data. You ask a village girl, she knows how to turn on the data. They have a very high level of digital tech exposure. Any kid in a small village will operate a smartphone for you. They can transfer money over your phone. Our laborers in the construction sites, they transfer money to their village over the phone and safely. Now these people have very high level of digital tech exposure. Now, and they are driven to survive. And they are able to survive in a varied set of circumstances. Just imagine this kind of energy, this kind of survival ability being given a small fillip. We don't even ask for any kind of handout from the government. What the government gives, 500 rupees a month or something, is tuppence to what we can earn on our own. Every farmer in India is capable of earning 50,000 rupees a week if you give him the opportunity. Now, what we have to do is tap on this potential and create the framework in which our people can unleash their tremendous potential for entrepreneurship. We cannot have them capped with regulation. It's time to set our people free. We do not require a stimulus. We require a certain commitment from the government that they will not interfere. In fact, there is a philosopher, historian from Portugal who comes to the Krishnadevaraya's kingdom, the Vijayanagar kingdom, in the 1500s. And when he comes and he notes down the great wealth and the wonderful situation that is there in the Vijayanagar Empire in the Deccan Plateau. Now, of course, he visits the king and the capital city, Vijayanagar, and all of that. And after that, he comes hundreds of kilometers and he travels all over the Deccan Plateau. Then after he comes about almost 700-800 kilometers down south, then he goes to a village. And he finds that there are no policemen in the village. Then he asks, where are the police? He said, there are no police here. He said, how can you survive? Because they said, well, we don't need police to survive. Then he asked, do we have any crime? He said, no, there's no question of crime. Why should we commit crime? Then he said, where is the representation of the king? Who do you belong? They said, yeah, we belong to the Vijayanagar Empire. Then who is the representative of the king? Yeah, the representative of the king, he comes and collects the taxes once a year. So he said, that's good. Then how much did you pay last time? He said, no, in the last 4 or 5 years they have not come. So we have collected the amount and we are keeping it. And when they come, when they have time, they will come. And when they come, we will hand it over to them. He was like taken aback. Because this whole country was self-administered. Because our sense of dharma was so high that we didn't need anybody to police. We didn't need any tax inspectors to come and collect tax. If they just came, people would welcome them and give the tax and send them home. This is our country. This is Bharata. This is where we have to return to. We cannot have mistrust of our people. We have to trust that our people are good and they can be great. And if given the right opportunity, our professionals, they want to achieve higher and higher degree of professional ethic, work and potential. And we need to implement a professional society-driven accreditation of qualified engineers where they have to go through a professional exam, they have to go through an interview or something like that, and they can be qualified as a professional engineer or as a specialist structural engineer or as a specialist geotechnical engineer or something like that. It should not be done by the government. And it should be done by professional societies. And this self-accreditation is a step that is required by our engineers. That's all we need, and we can compete anywhere in the world. We don't require a stimulus, as I said. All the government has to do is reduce fuel prices because the actual prices are low. I think it will happen. In fact, Arun Jaitley before he passed away, he said there is a case for merging the 12% and 18% and making it one tax rate of just about 14 or 15%. The previous chief economic advisor, Arvind Subramanian, he also said that anything above 15% is going to start hurting consumption. So I know it will be reduced, but if we take too long to reduce, we are at the cusp of an explosion in opportunity. So if we miss the sweet spot, then you give it at a point when the country is already tired, and again all the prices of fuel have gone up, and you really can't reduce the fuel prices, and whole situation has changed, and we are not strong enough to compete on the global scale. At that point, even if we reduce, it is like it doesn't help much. It is like, if you give some incentive to a youth, he will go build a life, and he will build his house, he will build a place for his family, he will build a business. If you give the same thing to a retired person, he will just spend it. He cannot build anything. So we are in that cusp of being in the youth of this economy. We are at the very end of the youth of this economy. This is the last chance for us. If we do not take this chance, then 5 or 10 years later we will regret what we have done. So I do hope, I have tremendous faith in the government, I have tremendous faith in our Prime Minister, I have tremendous faith in the true capabilities of all of the people who are involved, both on the side of the government as well as in the private industry, that they actually mean very well for Indians and Indian engineers, and especially for the Indian construction industry. And Indian entrepreneurs are versatile, resilient, and fully capable of growing the economy exponentially, not just $5 trillion, but $10 trillion by 2030. It is up to us to do what we think is right and what we think will help us. Let us wait and see. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here and presenting to India Construction Week 2020. My name is Vikram Chopra. I'm joining you from Dubai, United Arab Emirates. My topic that was given to me was a discussion on building tourism destinations of tomorrow for India. I'm going to be sharing a screen that has my presentation, and I hope you folks take something home with you and take benefit from this presentation. Just quickly, what we are going to be covering in this 30 minutes or so presentation is these topics. There'll be an introduction. I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then these topics: understanding tourism industry worldwide. Where does India stand in that standing? Opportunities for India. What are the development enablers? Meaning, what do we have to do to develop world-class destinations in India? And then what are the successful destinations of the world as a comparison? So quickly, an introduction about myself. I've been in construction, design and construction industry for 30 plus years. I studied in India, and I moved to United States in 1986. Did my master's over there, and then I've been working with construction companies, project management consulting companies for the first 20 years of my career in the US. And then 10 years ago, I moved to the Middle East in Dubai. And ever since, my focus has been to develop big destinations, entertainment cities, first in Abu Dhabi, then in Dubai, more recently in Saudi Arabia. And since last 1 year, pre-COVID, I'm helping companies around the world, in South Africa, South Korea, United States, and in Bangladesh, develop tourism destinations. So I'm an advisor to government agencies or private developers who have some kind of a concept in their mind that they want to build a theme park, they want to build a resort or a water park or something that attracts tourists. They want to know how to get started, where to get the funding from, and how big or how small and what kind of concept to use. So I come in and advise them. I have developed, you can see on the screen, quite a few destinations around the world, in California, in Japan, and in Middle East. So I have been waiting for an opportunity for a very long time, and I hope I see that happen soon, that I get to develop something in India. And hence the reason why I'm presenting. India has a very strong case, and you will see that in the presentation today. And why I think there is a strong case. India is ready for a world-class tourism destination to bring more revenue from the tourists from around the world. So let's get started with the presentation. First of all, tourism is one of the biggest industries in the world. It is something like $5 trillion. That was pre-COVID figures. So let's spend a few minutes to understand this industry. What is this industry all about? And where do people travel? Where do they go? And how much they spend in different parts of the world. So here is a quick snapshot of what are the tourism drivers. For what reason people travel? You have culture and heritage tourism, and I'm giving examples right below that. Egypt, people go to Egypt for seeing pyramids. That's history, culture. They come to India to see Taj Mahal and the palaces in Rajasthan and temples in southern part of India. So India also ranks very high in culture and heritage tourism. People also go to Israel to visit Jerusalem, which has a religious reason why people go there, Jews and Christians and even Muslims. People also travel. A lot of people travel for entertainment. Good examples in Florida, theme parks in Orlando. In Los Angeles, California, there are Disney, Universal, Legoland. People also go to Singapore and Hong Kong for Universal and Disney parks. So they attract a lot of tourists in these locations. People travel for adventure and sports. People go to Nepal for trekking Mount Everest. Africa, wilderness, there are quite a few destinations within Africa, Kilimanjaro, mountains and wildlife. People go to New Zealand for thrill sports, bungee jumping and stuff. So these kind of things attract people. People also travel for leisure. Maldives, Mauritius, Thailand, Hawaii, tropical beaches, and resorts in the ocean. That people travel quite a bit for that. And then people travel for religion. Saudi Arabia had Mecca. People go to Hajj. Same reason people travel for culture heritage to Israel. They go to practice religion in Israel, Italy, because Italy has Venice. So a lot of Christians travel to Italy for that reason. And recently, nowadays, medical tourism had picked up pace in quite a few parts of the world, including India. Thailand is in the forefront of that. A lot of people especially from African countries and countries where medical is super expensive, like North America, especially US. People travel to these countries to subsidize their cost, especially if they don't have insurance and they have heavy-duty medical care to be taken care of for themselves. People also travel to meet friends and family around the world, and that's very common. And then obviously people travel for work. So a very quick snapshot of why people travel around the world. And this is what the tourism industry is in a nutshell. People have to travel for whatever reason, and these are the reasons. Here's a quick graphic representation of tourist number arrivals in different parts of the world by color. It's less than 4.76 million in countries, and then the top is more than 45.77 million people. Quickly in figures, here you can see more clearly, where do people spend money in the top destinations? United States in the forefront for $214 billion money spent in the United States on tourism. Um, Quite a few countries in the forefront. Spain and France and UK and Europe are in the forefront of that. When you come to Asia, Thailand is the biggest attractor. 63 billion people. Uh, sorry, 63 billion dollars spent in Thailand, not people. Excuse me. China at 40 billion dollars. India is not too far, actually, 29 billion. But if you compare that with the European countries, and we're not even close to the United States, it is still a very low number for a country that has 1.2 billion and so many attractive destinations within the country. I strongly believe that 29 billion can be someday. I'm hoping 290 billion. Wishful thinker, but everything is possible. India has a vast history of monuments, culture, heritage, even the beaches. We have the mountains, we have a desert, we have tropical weather. We have in one country we have pretty much everything. Not too many countries can say that. And at top of that, we have history, well-preserved history. Here, the ranking of top 10 countries in the world that contribution to their GDP from tourism industry. And you can see US and China are in the forefront. Distant three is Japan, Germany, Italy, UK, France, Spain, and then at number 10 is India. Still not too bad. Top 10 in the world. We're doing okay, but like I said, we can do a lot better. And here are the figures in India compared to the rest of the region, Asia. We have China ahead of us, we have Thailand ahead of us, and we are, I think, number 3 or 4 in Asia as the top tourist driver, as in terms of international arrivals into India. And here is the number. In 2018, we don't have the figures for 2019 yet because of COVID, everything, stopped. I wouldn't say it's completely stopped, but we don't have the figures for 2019. In 2018, India attracted 17.4 million visitors. It's good, but it can be improved. Like I said, we can do a lot better. And the trend, if you look at the trend, it is improving. Since 2013, something happened in India, 2013-14. And look at the number of visitors. It's consistently rising. And 2019 was probably better than 17.4. And I am sure 2020 was very bad. It will be very bad because of COVID. So that gives you an idea of the tourism industry. And here I'm going to show you a few slides on what are the opportunities for India to improve tourism. What can we do and where and how? Quickly, here is the potential we are talking about. What's listed on the left-hand side is a country with the highest number of amusement parks. I'm using amusement parks as an example. It can be resorts, it can be hotels, it can be anything that attracts tourists. But amusement parks or theme parks are good indicators of why people travel. So on the left column, you have the countries ranking with the most number of amusement parks. On the right side is the ranking of countries with the highest population, right? So we are right behind China in population. So we are number 2 on the population. And if you see on the left, we are number 9 on the number of amusement parks. So you can see the potential India has to cater to the population, to create entertainment, amusement, and attract people. Just a quick indicator of that, the potential. And here I'm going to tell you what are the different types of destinations we can create in India. We have entertainment destinations, which are theme parks, water parks. We will get into the details, but these are the broad categories: entertainment, adventure, indoor activity. Indoor activities is also called FECs, which stands for Family Entertainment Centers. If you go to Middle East, the malls, every mall has an entertainment zone. Even in India, it has caught on. When parents are shopping, the kids are in an entertainment zone. Those zones are called family entertainment centers. That's indoor primarily, so it doesn't matter how cold, how hot it is. People can enjoy that. And then you have sports and recreation destinations, outdoor water activity, and few others. And now we get into the detail of what is each one of these categories. What do we have? So in entertainment concepts, we have theme parks, amusement parks, water parks, family entertainment centers. I just explained it to you. Performing arts centers, concert halls, museum, art gallery, animal park, zoo, aquarium. So these all come under the entertainment concepts, right? So this is where Orlando and Los Angeles and Singapore and Hong Kong have done very well in attracting tourism. Even Japan, Osaka and Tokyo. And China is in the forefront right now, building new destinations. So everywhere, where there's a mass congregation of people, high density people, these things work very well because you are able to attract a very large consumer base from within. You don't have to rely on international tourism. That is the success of Orlando. That's the success of China, Japan, Hong Kong, Singapore. They are able to attract. And this is why I'm thinking India has a huge potential because we have a very large consumer base. So we won't have to rely on too much international tourism if we create any of these destinations. Number two concept is adventure. In adventure, you have zip line, campgrounds, four-wheeling, rock climbing, horse riding, trail biking, bungee jumping. New Zealand has done a good job in creating an adventure concept. Like I told you in one of the slides before, a lot of people go to New Zealand for that reason. Then indoor concepts, you can create zip line inside, we can create skydiving inside. There are a lot of companies, a lot of places in the world, they have indoor skydiving, indoor scuba diving, rock climbing, go-kart racing. Everything can be done indoors. And the good thing about indoors is that you're not relying on inclement weather. There are a lot of places which are very cold in winter, very hot in summer, like Middle East, very hot in summer. So Middle East, pretty much you will see most of the concepts indoors. So people keep coming, even in bad weather. And then you have sports and recreation concepts, golf courses, golf academy, polo academy, cricket stadium, tennis stadiums, football. When you have, I don't think we have too many in India, but some parts of the world, like Singapore, Australia, US, UK, they have sports parks. People from all over the world come there and stay and learn a sport and become experts in that, and then they go back to their home countries and participate in games like we have Asian games, we have Olympics, any type of games. When you do not have the facility to train and do your best in your own country, you go to those academies in different parts of the world, and those attract tourism. Outdoor water activity concepts, marina, houseboats, man-made beach, jet ski, parasailing, fishing, swimming, scuba diving, very popular in destinations like Maldives, Thailand, Vietnam, wherever you have open ocean, Seychelles, Mauritius, they have done really well, in these type of activities. And then there are other possibilities, live entertainment. Cirque du Soleil, number one company in the world. They have shows all over the world, Vegas, Orlando, New York, and they're a Canadian company. They have spread their wings all over the world, and then they do quite well with that. Ferris wheels or observation wheels, they're extremely popular around the world. You have one in Singapore, London Eye. There's one coming up in Dubai, which is the largest in the world. China has quite a few, and pretty much all big cities have one form or the other. Las Vegas rolled out really nice one a few years ago. They're all over the world. They attract a lot of tourists. Then you have the gondola ride, very common, especially on the ski resorts. They take you from the base camp to the top of the mountain for sightseeing, skiing, whatever. So that is a type of destination that you can build. Amphitheater, lakeside concerts, large water feature like dancing fountain, Burj Khalifa. There's another one in Dubai now, which is the largest in the world, in Palm Jumeirah. So they also, I won't say they are a tourist destination, but they are an element of a destination that becomes an attraction within a destination. And people, I won't say people travel just for that, but it enhances the flavor of a destination when you create something like that within a destination. So here are the different possibilities what India can do with the tourism. And there are some other magnets: commercial hub, residential, retail district, and hospitality. When you build destinations, you create a environment of a business, and you can do these things to enhance the flavor of a destination. You have to have hotels because that's where the people are going to stay when they travel to a particular destination. And you can build 7-star, 5-star budget hotels. uh, Very popular these days is under retail district, RDE, which stands for retail dining entertainment. Good examples are Universal City Walk in Los Angeles, downtown Disney in Anaheim. Dubai has done quite a few of those called City Walk, the beach, and the Point in Palm Jumeirah. All over the world, these are cropping up. These are the places where you do not have to buy a ticket or even pay for parking. You just walk in there and you spend on uh, primarily they work on in a dining and a dinner time. You have some retail and then there's some entertainment for little children, nothing heavy duty. So the way they have worked the most is outside a theme park or amusement park, a little district, or by itself, standalone. Uh, they work both ways. They're very attractive these days, and outdoor concepts coming up all over the world. Now, what are our possibilities in India when we want to do something themed? Possibilities I'm talking here specifically for India. India can use its history, culture, and interests to come up with ideas that can be taken from themes which already exist. I have listed quite a few of them under regional themes: historical, Rajasthan, Agra, Delhi. This is where we have the monuments. Even in South India, I would say Chennai and Madurai, even Kanyakumari. We have a lot of history in these places, so we can use that theme to create something around those areas, or take that theme and build something else somewhere else. So now here you see the diversity of India. We have the mountains in Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, tropical Kerala, even in parts of Karnataka, and on the east coast in Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu. We have beautiful beaches in Goa, and Kovalam in Kerala. We have rivers, Gangotri, Yamunotri, Satluj, Ravi, so many. We have the plains, fertile plains, Punjab and Haryana. Urban setting, Mumbai, New Delhi, Kolkata, Bangalore, these are urban cities. And we have religious destinations within India: Varanasi, Haridwar, Madurai. We could look at cultural themes of India, ancient medieval architecture, spirituality, yoga, Ayurveda, Vastu Shastra. These are things that originated from India. We can take those and build it into something to attract people from worldwide who have interests in these kind of things. And then sometimes you look at the national interests of India, the people that Indians love. We have Bollywood, we have cricket, handicrafts, regional cuisines, technology and space research. India is doing very good work along these lines, and we can use that to our advantage to create destinations. So, what is our economic case? And how do we say that India will do well? And how do we justify a multi-billion dollar destination? What is our business case in a nutshell? So here we're talking 1.2 billion population with a large consumer base. I won't say the entire 1.2 billion population will go to these destinations because we have poverty. There's certain people who will not spend the money because their focus is to cover the basics, right? We still have about 300 to 400 million consumer base in India who would take advantage of new destinations if we build in India. There's lack of tourism opportunities, and as a result, there is tourism leakage. What that means is people go outside of India to have vacations. The money is spent outside. So India doesn't benefit from that. When people go to the other countries for entertainment, adventure, and sports, the country they originate from, that country loses because the money is spent outside. Our goal is to keep the people in. Not only that, bring people from outside. So that's the goal of tourism. We are a high potential sector because of our young population. We are a young, vibrant population. We have world-class high-tech industry, southern part of India, Bangalore, Hyderabad. So, whenever you create something world-class, you use technology, and we have the technology right here. We don't have to go and look for other economies to help us. It is a boost to the economy. My apologies for the spelling here. It's economy, not economy. It creates employment and business opportunities for the region, for everybody. If you look at Orlando, that city thrives on people working or supplying to the theme parks. 14 theme parks in the city. So everything you create has to be supported by local businesses. It creates local businesses, and that's perpetual, business model for everyone involved with that undertaking. And then finally, you create something good. People come from overseas, they enjoy, and it creates a good national image and standing to those people who have come. And then it's a good marketing technique for any country that does something like that. Now, what do we have to do to build something like this? Something that can attract people. What are our enablers? Quickly, we have to introduce global best practices in project development. What that means is that we have to bring the best from all over the world to design, to procure and execute, and install all the beautiful projects and beautiful destinations, and have an excellence in space making, create beautiful spaces. That's what it's all about, best practices. And for that, we have to create partnerships with international brands. Those brands could be Ritz-Carlton, big hotel chains, big entertainment brands like Disney, Universal, Warner Brothers, Nickelodeon, Discovery Channel, National Geographic, all kinds of brands. They lend you their brand, and that attracts people. Make India accessible to global talent. Where we stand today, there is very limited global involvement when it comes to the talent. And what I'm saying, in other words, is India is still not very expat friendly. Expats are coming to India to work because it's an attractive market, an attractive destination, but they do not stay there for too long. This is what I have learned about India. Average is 1 year, 1.5 years, and that is not good. We need to bring people in and keep them there. We have to improve enabling infrastructure. To create the destinations, we have to create better infrastructure, accessibility, water, power, sewerage. All these things have to be done in accordance with international standards. Then only you can create something of international standard. We have to float government initiatives to market brand India, which to some extent is already happening, but we need to do more. And then conduct a feasibility study, which is very important. A feasibility study tells you what will work in a place, in a particular place, how many people it will attract, what kind of revenue can be generated. We'll get into more detail next slide. And here is what the feasibility studies I'm talking about. What it does is it looks at the global and regional tourism trends, and it gives you an idea where do we stand in relation to the global trends. Are we doing okay, or are we doing less? And in terms of India, obviously we are doing less, which is why the purpose, which is what the purpose of this presentation is. They look at the regional and local leisure market attendance assumptions based on the population and the spending per capita. This study can advise that people will probably spend this much amount of time and money to go to new destinations. These guys will also tell you how much money you should spend on capital and how much operation cost assumptions you can make, because that is necessary to calculate the revenue assumptions, right? So this study will tell you that. Then the high level financial analysis, risk assessment. At the end of the study, what we do then is that we say, okay, in a place like India, for example, in Bangalore, again, as an example, we don't have a theme park that people can enjoy. And with a large consumer base, lots of young people who want to do something. So here is a theme park that you can build here. It can be this big, it can have this theme, and you can expect 1 million, 1.5 million people to come a year. And based on the ticket price, you can expect this much revenue. And based on our assumption of the operational cost, revenue minus operation, that's the profit you can uh, assume. That is the business case. This feasibility study basically tells you all that in a very comprehensive study, which takes typically 2 to 3 months for any destination in the world. In this is my expertise. I help companies define and then implement the development process for destinations around the world. And I categorize these in 3 stages: uh, planning, preparation, and delivery. And I will get into each one of them in a little more detail. What is planning? Again, it's the feasibility study. We have to do the organizational planning. We have to do the organization charts in the company, team building. We have to bring the right people in. And then we hire a consultant to help with the concept design and high level master plan. Typically, these are the companies who will come in and help you with this. You tell them the results of a feasibility, they will give you a concept. And you have to plan the infrastructure around it. And you have to create partnerships, like I was talking earlier, IP, brand licensing. You have to find investors. If it's not the government, it has to be some private party. And who are the operators are going to be. So at this level, you create partnerships and get a feedback from these people who might have done something similar before, and they can help you with lessons learned. Capital planning, you have to do a conceptual cost estimate. And you have to do project phasing and scheduling. How long it'll take you to build, and how are we going to break it up into different phases. And then somebody has to do a project execution strategy, which includes design strategy, procurement strategy, construction strategy. And then in the end, with all the information from 1 to 9, you put together a business plan. And then you go in front of the board of directors or the government, highest level of the government, to get an approval. And they approve, they give you the money, and you go and build it. But before you build, you have to prepare. This was the planning process, right? So the next stage is preparation. So before the preparation, there should be approval to build. The business plan is approved. So now you're preparing to build something. So here are again 10 steps that happen to prepare for the execution of a project. We bring in consultants. RFP stands for request for proposal. This is something that is handed out during the tender process to select a designer. You select a design company, then you manage the design process. When the design is built, you have more information on the project, you do the cost estimating of the project, and you develop a master schedule. Sometimes we figure that we are going to be spending more money than we have, and you have to do something called value engineering. You lower the price, you change the materials, you take something out, you put something back in, which is slightly less expensive. So that process is called value engineering. And then you set up project control systems. But these are systems that help you control the cost, control time, manage documentation, manage the web-based project management systems, which is the next item. So this allows you to set it up to execute a project. And you have to do that before you actually start construction. So you have to plan long lead equipment planning. These typically are the high-end entertainment machinery, which is roller coasters. It could be switch gears, electrical switch gears, air conditioning units, specialty equipment like unique elevators. You have to, sometimes they can have a lead time of 1 year or more. So you have to plan it in a way and procure them early so that they arrive on the site at the time they're needed to be installed. Otherwise, you'll delay the whole project. So that planning is very, very, very crucial. Then you take all the information into the design process, specification development, assemble it together into called construction documents. Then you go out in the market, do another RFP, and find a contractor who will build it. And that is the tendering and the contracts award process. So now we are ready to build. And very quickly, again, 10 steps of a typical project delivery. You have site logistics planning, construction management, installation of rides, show theming, progress measurement and reporting, change management, dispute. All these steps are needed, typically taken by a contractor, managed by either an in-house project management from the owner side or an outsourced project management company that will help you manage the process and bring it to close out, handover, and then project close out. So these are the steps we need to take to build a successful destination. And very, very briefly, here's the process. How long it takes to build a typical example here is an entertainment destination or a theme park. It's typically 24 to 30 months process, and this is how it is broken down. We are running out of time, so I will not get into the detail, but this presentation is available to you, and you can take an idea what it's going to take. And now, very quickly, I'll walk you through the successful destinations or successful brands of the world who operate these kind of destinations. 2019, there was a study done by a company called AECOM and Teamed Amusement Association. They ranked top 25 amusement parks in the world. And you can see, I will not go through the detail. Here they are ranked, and it also tells you the attendance in 2019, attendance in 2018. Typically, it keeps increasing for different years. 2020, it will be down, obviously, good reasons. But here is the ranking for amusement parks worldwide. Here is the ranking of water parks worldwide, top 20. They attract fewer people than theme parks because there's only a certain age group that will go to a theme park, to a water park. Here's the top 20 museums worldwide. Louvre in France is the number one. So here's gets you an idea, who is attracting how many people around the world. And here are the destinations that are very popular in the region and in the world. Dubai Parks and Resorts in Dubai. It is a cluster of 4 theme parks and a hotel. Bollywood, there's the world's first Bollywood theme park, which has a Bollywood theater with a live show. It has a Motion Gate theme park, Legoland theme park, and a Legoland water park, and a Lapita hotel. I was fortunate enough to work on this project for 4 years, and I was part of the team that delivered this project 4 years ago. Yas Island in Abu Dhabi, another destination which is coming up very strong. It has Ferrari World, Yas Water Park, Warner Brothers World. And again, I was very happy, very fortunate to be part of the team here. This was the Ferrari World was delivered about 10 years ago, and I was part of the project management team there. There is a resort in Macau, which is coming up. I will browse through very quickly to give you an idea what are the successful destinations. And this is a Resorts World in Sentosa Island, Singapore. Very popular. A lot of people visit this place. LA Live in Los Angeles, very popular. It has a stadium, indoor stadium, Staples Center. It has a 5-star hotel. It has a shopping district. It has an arena, entertainment, cinemas. Basically, a good place to hang out for younger generation in the evenings. London Eye, we talked about that earlier. A very popular destination. Madinat Jumeirah in Dubai, very popular. It is a 5-star resort with very fancy high-end restaurants and a canal system. Then you can go by a boat. Very unique concept in a place like Dubai. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, you can reach me. Thank you very much for your time.